What's up, guys? Ron from Rohde Law back again with another Lawyer Reacts video, and this time we're going to be looking at some of the worst advice you can find on the internet. And I know there's no shortage of terrible advice out there, but let's really take a look because, let's face it, there's people out there that don't know it's bad advice, so let's take a look.
This out. How crazy would it be if I told you that there's a legal loophole that lets anybody take ownership of whatever property they want for free? Not so crazy because it actually exists. It's called adverse possession.
Okay, I'm going to stop him right there. Technically true, but adverse possession is incredibly difficult to enforce. It's one of these law school hypo exams where we learn about the 7 elements of adverse possession. But the fact is, today, it is rarely used. You still have to hire an attorney to push it forward. And furthermore, one of the biggest elements of adverse possession is paying the property taxes and maintaining a property. So you're taking a huge risk by paying for something on a piece of property that you don't even own. So let's...
It's a law that still exists that's a remnant from the old days where somebody could stumble upon an abandoned property, occupy it, and then eventually just become the owner of it automatically. This day and age, we don't really see a scenario like that, but technically, if I were to come across an abandoned house and start living in it, and if I were to meet these 4 elements, I'll just become the legal owner of that property. Or I have to continuously maintain possession of that property for as long as the statute in my state provides. In Illinois, it could be like 20 years. So after 20 years, I become the legal owner of that property.
All right, this probably gets up there, but we give it some top 3 worst advice.
This is the #1 real estate investing strategy that I use to become a millionaire. It's called the BRRRR method. B.
All right, this thing's been around as old as dirt. Let's see what the fresh take from Canada tells us.
Buy a property for a good price or below market value.
Step number 1. That's really hard in this market. Have you looked at anything for sale? It is not easy to find something below market with cash buyers, foreign investors, and institutions all competing for the same product.
You that preferably need some TLC. R. Renovate or repair the property.
Great. So this strategy requires even more capital. You're going to have cash, or you're going to borrow the cash from a hard money lender that you're going to be paying 10, 12% for.
So that you can make it attractive to future tenants who will pay the rent. R. Rent out the property to a tenant with good credit.
Great. So now you've got a easy step. I think this is a given. If you've done step 1 and 2, you can rent it out, but there's still going to be hold costs, and it might sit vacant for a while.
R. Refi. Once you have revenue coming into your property and you build some equity, you go back to the bank and get a cash refi.
Well, I'll tell you, with increased interest rates and with general recession scares, banks are not lending above your initial equity. And so whatever debt you put on in the beginning, they don't want to cash out refi. What we're doing now is called cash in refi. So that doesn't work in this rising interest rate environment.
R. Repeat this process again with the money the bank gave you and buy another revenue property.
You know, what's really missing is some good math, because on all of these scenarios, if you initially invested $50,000 and even if you pull out $75,000, it doesn't cover all of your costs, and it's not some infinite money machine in a high interest rate environment. Banks are not lending willy-nilly anymore, and so I think BRRRR has real issues from step 1 all the way to step 4. You know, the only easy parts are assuming a smooth renovation that fits within your budget.
Legally write off your vacation. In the tax code, there's something called being a real estate professional, meaning that you devote at least half of your time towards real estate. And so when you get this status, a lot of benefits come with it, one of them being when you're on vacation. If I was to go to Hawaii and spend a certain amount of time towards my real estate business, I could write off the trip.
You have to spend 750 hours a year to maintain this status. For most people with a regular W-2 working job, that's just not possible. So he doesn't get worse. I would probably say he's probably the 3rd worst, because it is a status that a lot of people do end up using, but not if you have a full-time job.
Here's #1 real estate tip that nobody talks about. It's not BRRRR strategy, it's not flipping, and it's not wholesaling. It's called rental arbitrage business.
All right. Immediately off the bat, this guy he grinds my gears. Maybe it's the turtleneck. I don't know. rental arbitrage, not easy because you don't control the property. And I'll tell you, a lot of landlords that I represent do not allow rental arbitrage. The best way to get this is to find an unsophisticated landlord, which I'll tell you is not common and is not easy.
You make $6,000 a month. You pay the rent $3,000 and you take home $3,000 every single month. Pass.
Again, this is not real estate investing. This is managing a vacation. This is managing a hotel room. It's an active job. So for that $3,000, you have the cost of furnishing, you have your cleaning fees, you have a lot of work, and it's fine. I think this works. It works on a pure theoretical basis, but the amount of time expended to get that $200 or $2,500 of profit every month, it's a serious time commitment.
In fact, this is a strategy that I used to become a multi-millionaire by age 26. So if you...
All right, I don't really care whether he's a millionaire by the age of 26. He can create whatever fake numbers based on fake unsustainable cash flow, but don't follow this tip. It is my #1 worst real estate tip.
Abandoned school and converted it into a 31-unit apartment.
Okay, I love this one. I mean, he's not touting it as a money-free option, but this is some of the worst advice for beginners or people starting off in real estate, is to do a mixed use or conversion of an existing use, especially from a vacant building. You have zero cash flow from day one, zero. It is some of the hardest, most complicated work that you have carry costs, you have property taxes, insurance, all of these things that you have to pay every month while you're pending, while you're applying for approvals, you're paying your architect, you're paying your lawyers. Converting empty buildings into another use, incredibly expensive, and completely glosses over the risks that they took for their many hundreds of thousands of dollars to create this
complex. The school hadn't been used in years and was put up for auction for just $100,000. Classrooms have been turned into apartments for around $1,400.
Now, they said their purchase price was even $100,000, and I almost guarantee they're spending $250,000 on the renovations, because look at the quality of the finish out. I don't see how they're making tons of money when they don't charge enough in rent. But at the end of the day, this is not a great project for anybody to emulate until you're in a cash position that you want to spend $500,000 on a speculative deal that takes you 1 year to receive a penny back. All right. Well, that's it for the worst real estate advice on TikTok. Smash that like button, subscribe for more lawyer reacts, and we'll see you next time.